Had I not been spotted, I would have gone to Howard University. So I don't make an assessment on the game based on the second half. I make an assessment on the character of the players in the second half when they're under the cosh and they showed a lot of attitude and commitment and determination. What would happen now is somebody will sign me. I'm 19, they're going to sign me because look what he did. That was the essence of what Liverpool was. Liverpool was never about Russian Dalglish.
Morning, John.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Doing great. I enjoyed your session yesterday on the stage. That was fun. Nice. Especially with the Man United fans.
No singing, no, but that's okay. Next time.
So going back to the beginning, tell us about the taxi driver story.
The way I became a professional footballer in 1980-81 wasn't that different to everybody else. You didn't have academies, you didn't have scouts all over the country spotted. You just had to be lucky to be spotted. Yeah. And I played with so many young players who were never spotted, so they never made it. So I was fortunate to be spotted. I was just playing for an amateur team called Sudbury Court. 2 or 3 people watching. Yeah. One of them was a taxi driver who stopped to have a little game and to watch. Yeah. He thought I was a good player. He then knew a scout at Watford, so he told the scout to come and have a look at me. I didn't even know the scout came until one day I got a phone call. Mm-hmm. So if that taxi driver hadn't stopped, I would have made it. I may have made it as a professional footballer, but not through that route.
Right.
I got offered a scholarship to go to Howard University. I was about to go to Howard University in Washington, D.C., and this was 3 months before I was going to go to Howard University on a football scholarship. Had I not been spotted, I would have gone to Howard University, did a degree in whatever, international relations, played football for the university. Yeah. There's no real professional football in 1981, so I would have got a job. So I was lucky to have been spotted, but as I said, there's so many people who, A, weren't spotted, or B, were lucky in a different way than I was, but just to be spotted to be given a chance.
You played for Watford.
My first year when we got into the top division, I was 17, then I became 18, and now we're in the first division. We finished second to Liverpool in the league. Yeah. So the Watford from the fourth to the top division was really 3-4 years before I got there. You know, so that's how incredible Graham Taylor was in terms of bringing them all the way up. And when we finished second in the league to Liverpool, in my second year at Watford, I would say probably 80% of those players would have come from the fourth division. Yeah. And we never spent a lot of money. Of course, Elton was the chairman, but we didn't spend money. We didn't buy big superstar players. Graham Taylor just empowered the team to believe that they can achieve, you know, by honesty, by teamwork, by determination, by discipline. And in many respects, it kind of reminds me of Jurgen Klopp, because Jurgen doesn't necessarily buy the best players, because no matter whether you talk about Sadio Mane and Mo Salah and Bobby Firmino, I don't remember Real Madrid and Man United and all these people wanted these players. He turned them into these superstars. So Graham Taylor's philosophy was about the team, togetherness, and how you can achieve. So yeah, obviously we had 1 year in the championship, as it were, but then we got straight into the Premier League, but the old first division.
Yeah. So what was it like going from, you know, Watford, where you'd been so successful, but then you move into, you know, England's most successful team? What was the pressure like about that?
Well, of course, the pressure is going to be immense, because obviously Kenny had retired. Yeah. Rushy had gone to Juventus. So of course, myself and Peter Beardsley are now coming, and John Aldridge to replace Rushy. So the pressure was there. However, I was already played for England for 4 years. The goal I scored against Brazil was when I played for Watford.
Yeah, right.
So people all remember me, you know, when my career took off at Liverpool, but they have to remember that I was already a seasoned international. You know, as I said, I've played more than 35 games for England. So what happens now is you have players who are like 17, 18, 19 years old. They have one good season and they cost £80 million going to a big club. Not only is the pressure huge, but are you able to handle that? But I was experienced. That's 6 years. Peter Beardsley was the most expensive signing, 1.45 million, whatever it was. But he'd had 6-7 years at Newcastle. Right. John Aldridge had 8 years at Oxford. So as much as the pressure is there, we're able to handle it because we had shown that we had a level of consistency over a period of time before you got to go to Liverpool, and that's what Liverpool did. Yeah. You know, they didn't just sign a player because after that goal against Brazil, for example, in 1984, what would happen now is somebody will sign me. I'm 19, they're going to sign me because look what he did. Whereas Liverpool said, yes, but can you do this every week? And I was doing it every week for Watford in the league for 5-6 years. So they said, now is the time that you can come to Liverpool or go. Big clubs do the same thing. Man United, Brian Robson, he was at West Brom for 6-7 years before he went to Manchester United. Yeah. So I think that what Liverpool did is to make sure they're not going to make any mistakes. Because when you come, the pressure is going to be huge, but can you handle the pressure? They look at your character as well. They don't just look at your ability, they look at your character. Yeah. So they watch you in the games, they find out about you, what you're like as a person, your humility, your dedication, your discipline. Whereas now, clubs just sign players, don't they, all the time?
Yeah, yeah. But even with all that said, I mean, the chemistry between the three of you, you know, you, Aldo, and Peter Beardsley, was just amazing. I was, you know, I was a season ticket holder back then, and you know, we're like, how's this going to work? You know.
Well, once again, what Liverpool do is they look at, say, can you fit into what we want?
Yeah.
So as much as they're watching me playing for Watford, and the way Watford played, you know, a long ball game, getting into the channels, Liverpool don't play that way. So how am I going to fit into Liverpool? Because they obviously see me, even when I'm playing for Watford, and they say, well, look, I'm not going to be like Ray Kennedy or Ronnie Whelan, but we're going to do something different. They then look at John Aldridge and say he's not like Ian Rush.
Yeah.
He would want someone to put crosses into the box because that's what Aldo wants. He can do that. Peter Beardsley is going to come and play like Kenny. So as much as we're playing different styles of football for our clubs, they know that once we come into Liverpool, once again, they look at your character, they look at your adaptability, they look at your willingness to work hard. So we didn't work on it. We didn't, in training, they didn't know tactics and, you know, show us how to play. They just said, listen, you're experienced players. We've seen things in you. You will then learn the Liverpool way from the players who are there, the Alan Hansons, Ronnie Whelans, you know, the people, Stephen Nichols, the ones who had been there and seen it and done it. But you also bring your own style because, of course, it was all Russian Dalglish, all the attacking, whereas how were we going to play together? And as you just say, it clicked straight away because they knew that we had the initiative and also the understanding of how to play for Liverpool. And it'll be a slightly different type of Liverpool because, of course, when we came, as much as that Liverpool team with Kenny and Rushy were winning everything, it was a different style of football. You had Ronnie Whelan playing on the left, you know, Craig Johnson on the right, then Kenny, obviously. So I think the most natural part of it was really Aldo and Peter, because you think about Kenny and Rushy, Aldo and Peter are quite similar.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So I actually brought a different dynamic to that because, of course, they always had four just hard-working midfield players and Russian Dalglish up front. Whereas I think that they understood that I would work hard as well, because at Watford, my first responsibility was to work hard for the team defensively. Yes. Never mind, I'm a winger. Graham Taylor says your first responsibility is not to let that full-back run. So I always had that ethic, that work ethic defensively for the team, as well as going forward. So I suppose that just probably added a little bit more attacking impetus to Liverpool in a different way, rather than just Russian Dalglish.
Yeah, yeah, great stuff. So you won just about every award, right? You know, you won Player of the Year, you were the Writers' Player of the Year and everything else. But the one that stood out for me, Tom Finney said, like, a player like John Barnes only comes around once every generation. What did you make of that?
Well, look, the thing about it is that, I mean, my favourite game was the Nottingham Forest game, and I think Tom Finney, when he saw that game, and that really, and I wasn't necessarily man of the match, but it was just a great team performance. So accolades are nice, but as individuals, you don't win anything by yourself. When I won Player of the Year that first year, the most pleasing thing for me was that we had 7 or 8 players in the Team of the Year. You know, I won Player of the Year, but they had Team of the Year as well. And Liverpool, I think, had 7 or 8 players in the Team of the Year. And for me, that's more pleasing. Because as I said, you know, from I was brought up with my dad to playing for Watford as a 17-year-old, it's always been about the team. We can't help the way fans see us. Fans are always going to put players above their teammates, aren't they? Yeah. But we can help the way we see ourselves in relation to the fans. And I would never ever feel more important than Barry Venison, for example, or Gary Ablett, who played at left back, because I'm a superstar. So, of course, you know, and that was the essence of what Liverpool was. Liverpool was never about Russian Dalglish. It was always about the Sammy Lees and the Jimmy Cases and the other players. And I understood that when I first came, not from Liverpool, but from where I was brought up at Watford. So yes, these individual accolades are nice, but really, you know, I take them with a pinch of salt.
Yeah. But out of all the legends that you played with, you know, back then, whether it be for Watford or England, who would you kind of say were the best players that you ever played with?
Well, once again, Alan Hansen is probably the most influential I played with. Obviously, I played with Luther at Watford, but if you talk about Liverpool, where my career took off, Alan Hansen was the most influential. Ronnie Whelan probably, you know, I think was the most underrated player. The stuff that Ronnie Whelan did for the team, playing anywhere, and, you know, he was fantastic. But the player I enjoyed playing with most was Peter Beardsley, because Peter was a selfless player. You know, he'd rather someone else score than he score. He'd rather chase back and make a tackle for right back to help out. He's a real team player. So and I've played with him for England and roomed with him for England as well. So Peter Beardsley is probably my favourite player to play with.
Yeah, great. So moving on to the pre-season, it's been a success so far, I would say. What do you think of the youngsters so far? Are there any particular youngsters that have stood out?
No more so now than they haven't when Jurgen Klopp was here. Curtis Jones has been around, Harvey Elliott, João Kwanzaa came on last year. In the last 6 months of the season, you can see what he can do. So I think that he's probably the one who's going to stand out. But of course, the way that Arne now wants to play will help, as Curtis Jones has said, and Curtis and Harvey, because he's going to play a different game to Jurgen. Jurgen is very dynamic, and if you look at Jurgen's midfield and the profile of the midfield players, and the Hendersons and the Milners, and the Fabinhos, they're really hard-working midfield players, which really allowed Mane, Salah, Firmino, and the 2 fullbacks to do what they do because they work really hard. Arne is going to be probably a little bit more technical in terms of wanting to have more control in midfield. So therefore, technically speaking, you're looking at Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones. Dominic Szoboszlai was my favourite player last year, and he's going to be one of our most influential players. And we have big players to come back. McAllister is now come. I don't know if he's going to play. So it's just a question of, I don't think there's no surprises. And as I said, he asked me 2 years ago about Curtis, I would have said the same thing. However, they have to translate what Arne wants, because it's going to be different to Jurgen. We understand that. It's not going to be better, it's not going to be worse, it's going to be different, and the players have to adapt to it, and they have to accept it. The fans have to accept it, and that's the most important thing. So it's interesting to see once everybody comes back, and it's not so much in pre-season, but once the games start to go, we'll get an idea as to who are going to be the main players in the team in terms of the way they want to play. But as long as they have the right attitude and commitment and do what the manager says, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I noticed the other day, the second half against Arsenal, it was almost all youngsters on the field, and yet they were so disciplined.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking down, and they were sticking to this 4-3-3, which Arsenal couldn't get through them. No,
but of course we were at backs to the wall, and we don't have to do that every week.
No.
Because in terms of the first half, the way we played, we're attacking. But once you make those substitutions, it's good to see. But Arsenal controlled the game; they dominated the game. But we showed a lot of resilience,
right?
Which is good.
Yeah.
So, but I don't take don't take too much notice of that, because once you make so many substitutions in halftime, the fluency and the fluidity of the game is going to go from an attacking perspective. But at least those individual youngsters show that they have the discipline to actually come in and do a job. You're not going to play all of them all the time, but you can rely on them if you have to bring one or two of them in. So I don't make an assessment on the game based on the second half. I make an assessment on the character of the players in the second half when they're under the cosh, and they showed a lot of attitude and commitment and determination, and a lot of quality, like Trey Noyoni, for example. So I know that, like with Jurgen, he trusted them enough to put one or two of them in, and they performed. So I think that Arne is going to be similar, but we know we've still got the big boys to come back, and we really know what the team's going to be.
Yeah. Okay, last question. We had Jurgen for all those years, and we knew the style of football he was going to play. You mentioned yesterday when you're on the stage, we've already seen the differences that we're going to see under. How do you think it's going to go under Slot? What style do you think he's going to play?
Well, we're not going to be as intense and this heavy metal football whereby we're going to get the ball and attack quickly and get the ball in mid. Our midfield players weren't creative. They just got the ball forward to the front three and the two full-backs to go on attack. They defended and they got the ball back, so we were very up and down, very intense, whereas he's going to be more controlled. He's going to play slower from the back. He's still going to try and play through and get the ball forward quicker, but we're going to be more controlled in midfield. Probably have more touches in midfield, because before the midfield players got it, gave it to Mane, gave it to Salah, supported it, won the ball back, whereas I think that we are going to play a slower game, which isn't worse. Right. Man City play a slow game, and they're the best team in the world. Yeah. But what Arne has to do is play his own style. Yeah. And as Curtis has said, it's probably going to suit our ball players more. And it may take time, because obviously he hasn't had the team, and of course there are players to come back. McAllister is there. We still haven't got Nunes. There are other players, Diaz, to come back. Virgil. So it may take time. It may not. But I think we're going to, obviously, and everybody knows it's going to be a different style. But the most important thing is for the fans and the players to accept it.